Who is this course aimed at? In principle, of course, this course is mainly aimed at Linux interested people who would like to obtain the LPIC1 certificate. The course is structured in such a way that it is based on the relevant topics that LPI asks in the exam. Of course, taking an exam is not a must. If you are only interested in learning as much as possible about Linux and learning without using it professionally or without taking an exam, you will hopefully get your money's worth in this course. You do not need any previous Linux knowledge to take this course. We start at 0 from installing the system to getting started on the console and of course more complicated things later. How is this course structured? In this course we go through the topics of the first and the second LPIC1 exam, the LPIC 101 and 102, currently version 5, one after the other. LPI has described on its website exactly what the individual topics are, which commands and programs are queried, and even how many questions are asked about each category. As I said, we go through these topics step by step and, if possible, reproduce everything on at least one Linux system, sometimes on 2 different ones, because there are some differences between them, but more on that later. Since LPI queries a very wide range of topics, it may be that during the course you get the impression that you jump from topic A to topic B to topic C without sometimes having a connection. And yes, unfortunately, that is actually the case. The topics do not necessarily always refer to previous topics. So it is not the classic way. We start very small and build our knowledge on it, but the topics are treated just as LPI provides, because, as I said, it is mainly a course to be able to pass the exam afterwards. What is the LPIC1 certificate anyway? The LPIC1 certificate makes you a certified Linux administrator. The certificate is issued by the Linux Professional Institute, LPI for short. This institute was founded in Canada in 1919 as a so-called non-profit organization, means it does not pursue any economic profit goals. LPI has developed professional certifications for Linux that are completely independent of distributions. With an LPI certificate, you prove that you can administer all Linux distributions and not just a specific one. How does such an examination work? In order to obtain the LPIC1 certificate, 2 exams must be taken: the LPI 101 exam and the LPI 102 exam, both of which are currently version 5.0. Since Linux constantly changing, new topics are added regularly and obsolete topics fly out. That you always have to keep learning, especially if you are certified, because the certificate is only valid for 5 years. And if you have to renew the certificate after 5 years, it is clear that some topics have been added that may not have been heard of you. Then it is therefore important that you always keep learning and practicing. The actual exam looks like you are in a test center on site. There are various organizations where you can take this exam. You sit there alone in the room and take the exam on your computer. Unfortunately, you do not have a Linux computer available, so you can't even try something out if you are unsure about the question. Frequently, there are questions like name us a certain command with a certain option. And you can think of the command, but you can't think of the option at the moment. With a Linux computer that you could use, it would of course be very easy to find out the option, but as I said, the option is unfortunately not available during the exam, which is why you should prepare very well. You will mainly receive multiple choice questions where answers are given and you only have to click on the correct one or more correct answers. Fortunately, the questions the question always says how many answers are correct, which simplifies the whole thing a little bit. A few questions that are asked are not multiple choice questions. Here you actually have to write out a command or a path as an answer. And now, as a tip at this point, read the relevant question carefully, because often a question is simply asked where it says, tell us the command without any options. And if you write the correct command, but with options included, the computer will interpret this as a wrong answer. Therefore, always read carefully and always look exactly what kind of answer they would like to have. You will have to answer a total of 60 questions per exam, and if I remember correctly, you have 90 minutes to do this, maybe 2 hours, I'm not sure about that at the moment. And if you have learned well, the 60 questions can also be answered easily in 20 minutes. It all happens relatively quickly. After the last question has been answered, you will immediately be informed of your result by the computer. Often you can take your exam at various Linux events, which happen every now and then. There is usually a delegation from LPI on site and you can take your exam there. The advantage is that the exam only costs about half. The disadvantage is that you do not get the result immediately, but only in 2 or 3 weeks, because in this case, no computer evaluates, but the test is first sent to LPI in Canada, where it is evaluated, and then you get the result by post. How do I best use this course? I think the most important tip from my own experience is take your time. Unfortunately, I often have the problem with video courses that at some point I realize that I am no longer interested in learning something intensively, but only that I'm watching a lot of videos again today so that I will soon be finished and then I can finally take the exam. Of course, it won't work that way. So take your time, walk through each video carefully, recreate all things on your own system so it just stays in your head much better than if you just watch the videos and try to learn by heart. Try things out, play with the system, think a little bit back and forth when it comes to any command that I explained to you. Try question a little, think about whether there are other ways to achieve the desired result, and so on, so that you can easily gain experience with the system yourself. I try to explain everything in as much detail as possible, and of course it can still be that things are still unclear or you still have questions. Feel free to write me an email or write in the comments. Feel free to try the search engine, because the internet is full of good explanations on individual topics, and sometimes it is just that you just don't want to understand a certain topic, and then you look at how someone else explains it, and then it clicks and you finally understood it. Remember, you don't have a Linux computer at the exam, as mentioned before, so you have to know and be able to know all options and terms and paths. Yes, no one will know all options from every command, but that's not necessary either. So many options are not queried, at least it was not the case with me. But you should already know the most important ones. I will introduce all the options that I think are most important. Try to remember them too, but always look at the man pages for each command. You will find out what man pages are in a later course. Yeah, and finally, the mandatory disclaimer. I would like to emphasize here that I am not an LPI employee, that this is not an official course from LPI, but that the course simply comes from myself. I adhere to the course schedule the LPI has published, and so a bit my own bring experience, and I try to explain everything as detailed and intensive as possible. But of course, do not guarantee that you will definitely pass the exam, because such a course cannot do that. I can bring things closer to everyone, but you also have to learn a lot and practice a lot by yourself.
Hey, thank you very much for watching the video. You are awesome. If you like the video, press the like button, subscribe for more latest updates like this, and hit the bell icon so you get constant updates.